Hello dear students, as you all know we are doing chapter number 1 electric charges and fields. Today we are going to do fifth part of the lecture series. Today we will study numericals based on electric field. In the last lecture we have done electric field. Today we will do some numericals based on electric field. Second one is principle of superposition. And the third one is electric field due to a system of charges. The system of charges will be divided into two parts. One, number of finite charges are given. In the other one, continuous charge distribution is there. Okay, so we'll do both. Okay, let us start with the numerical. The first question we are going to take today is calculate the electric field required to balance an oil drop of mass m having a charge minus q between two opposite charge plate as shown in the figure. Where is the figure? Here it is. As shown in the figure, if the density of the drop is rho, then find the radius of the drop. This is the question. As you can all see, there are two charge plates, one is positive, one is negative, and there is a charge which is of mass m and it is having a charge minus q. So what will happen? What we have to find out? We have to find that what is the radius of the drop and what is the required electric field to balance the drop between the plates. Now just see, it is given that this charge is negative. So it has tendency to go towards positive charge and the direction of electric field will be towards downward. From here we have to learn one thing, that negative charges has tendency to move opposite to the electric field. Whereas positive charge, suppose if this charge would have been positive, then what will happen? It will go towards negative charge, negative plate. Okay, so positive charges have tendency to move in the direction of electric field and negative charges have tendency to move opposite to the direction of electric field. So this negative charge will experience a force QE which is upward and its weight, that is mg, will act downward. For equilibrium, mg must be equal to QE or QE must be equal to mg. From here, that value of E comes out to be mg upon Q. This will be our answer for the first part. This is the required electric field. Now we have been asked that what is the radius of the drop. For radius, from the above equation, if we calculate the value of mass, it will be QE upon G. Now mass can be written as density into volume because density is equal to mass upon volume. So mass can be written as density into volume. So in place of mass we write rho into capital V is equal to QE upon rho G. Now rho is transferred to that side and in place of V we can write 4 by 3 pi r cube. So it will become V is equal to QE upon rho G and in place of V we can write 4 by 3 pi r cube. From here the value of r cube will be 3 QE upon 4 pi rho G, and from here the value of r is going to be 3 QE upon 4 pi rho G to the power 1 by 3. So this will be our answer for the second part. This question is there in the NCERT also in the exercise. You can go through it. Okay, let us move to the next question. Next question, our diagram is given. Okay, and what is the question? Question is, figure shows tracks of 3 charged particles in uniform electrostatic field. Give the sign of 3 charges which the particle has charges. This is the first question, I think. Which particle has the highest charge to mass ratio? This is the second question. Also find the vertical displacement of the particle at the far edge of the plate. That we need to find the vertical deflection also. Assume that initial velocity of all particles is same. Initial velocities of all particles are same. So what we have to find out? We have to find out 3 things. First thing, the sign of the charges. Second thing, highest charge to mass ratio, which particle has. And the third thing, what is the vertical deflection? Let us discuss them one by one. Now just see. From figure, if you can see, the particle 1 and 2, they are moving towards positive plate and the particle 3 is moving towards negative plate. From here it is very obvious that 1 and 2 are negatively charged particles, whereas 3 is positive charge. And because of attraction, they move the path, they move along the path as we can see in the figure. So from figure it is very obvious that particle 1 and 2 are negatively charged, whereas the particle 3 is positively charged. Okay. Now initial velocity of all particles are along x direction. So initial velocity is same, and since direction of electric field is from positive to negative, that is along negative y, as the coordinates are given there. So it is clear that the charge 1 and 2 are negative and 3 is positive. Now let us move to the next part of the question. Question is, which particle has the highest charge to mass ratio? For that it is given that velocity along x-axis remains constant, and if you can see, the electric field will be from positive to negative, means minus y direction, and velocity is along x direction. Okay, then what happens? There is no force along the x-axis, only the force will act along y-axis, and hence the velocity remains along x-axis remains constant. Okay, and along if the velocity along x-axis remains constant, then velocity remains constant, distance traveled by the particle is L, then what will be the time taken by the particle? Let us see. So we write the statement, the velocity along x-axis remains constant as there is no force along x-axis. Hence all the particles reach the far edge simultaneously. The time taken to reach the far edge is given by t is equal to L upon Vx. T is time, L is distance, Vx is speed along x-axis. So let this be t is equal to L upon Vx. Let this be equation number 1. Okay. Now for motion along y-axis, there will be a force due to electrostatic field, and this force is given by F is equal to QE. F can be written as mass into acceleration. From here acceleration is equal to QE upon m. Now the second equation of motion says y is equal to ut plus half at square. So from here that value of u along y is 0. Then we can write y is equal to half. In place of a, we can write QE upon m into t square. Let this be equation number 2. Now, from here if we calculate the value of q by m, we can have 2my upon QET square. Now just see in the right side expression, 2m, they are constant, q, charge, all the charge are same, it is given in the question only, and E, it is the electric field. Okay, I think there is one mistake. Q should not be here. Q should not be here. Just see it is Q by m. That should be 2my upon Et square. It should be 2my upon Et square. Q should not be there. Please take care of this thing. Okay. Q by m we are calculating. It is 2my upon Et square. 2met square. All the three are same for all the charges. Therefore, we can say that Q upon m is directly proportional to y. From here, the charge to mass ratio is directly proportional to the y. Y is what? It is the vertical deflection of the particle, the motion of the particle along y-axis. Hence, the particle which has highest deflection will have greatest value of charge to mass ratio. Okay. And we write the statement, clearly the charge to mass ratio is directly proportional to vertical deflection. Therefore, the third particle which has the highest deflection has highest charge to mass ratio. Is that clear? Now one more thing have been asked in the question, and that thing is, what is the vertical deflection, means what is the value of y. So from equation number 2 we have calculated the value of y. Just what we are going to do, we are going to put the value of t from equation number 1. We are going to have from equation number 1 and 2, y is equal to half q by m in bracket L upon Vx whole square. If we solve it, we are going to have QEL square upon 2mVx square. So this will be the value of vertical deflection of the charge. Okay. So here this question is completed. Now we are moving to the next thing, and the next concept what we are going to study is, we are going to do the next question, and the next question is, Okay, next concept is principle of superposition. What is principle of superposition? The principle of superposition says that suppose if there are so many charges and at a particular point we need to know electric field, we all know that electric field is a vector quantity. We all know that electric field is a vector quantity. Then at any point the net electric field will be vector sum of all the electric field due to individual charges. That is, E net is equal to E1 vector plus E2 vector plus E3 vector plus so on. Okay, like suppose if I have four charges at any system in any system, and at a particular point I need to know what is the net electric field, then what I'll do, I'll calculate the electric field due to individual charges, and I'll do the vector sum of all the electric fields to get the total electric field. This is what the principle of superposition is. Okay, now we'll do some questions using this principle, and the very first question we are going to do is, two point charges Q and 4Q are separated by a distance A. At what point joining the charges the electric field is 0? Okay, this is the question. Let us make the diagram. We have been given two charges plus Q and plus 4Q, and we have been asked at what point on the line joining charges the electric field is 0. Let us take a point C. At this point electric field is 0. Let the distance of A and C be x, and the distance between B and C then obviously A minus x. Okay. Now due to plus Q, the electric field at C will be towards right direction. It will be E1 vector, and the electric field at C due to the plus 4Q will be towards left direction. Let this value be E2. If we want that there is no electric field, then we must have E1 is equal to E2. We'll put the values. For E1 it is kq upon x square because charge is q, distance is x. For 4q it is charge is 4q and the distance is a minus x. So k 4q upon a minus x whole square. Okay, now k and q will be cancelled out. We are going to have 1 upon x square is equal to 4 upon a minus x whole square. 1 upon x is equal to 2 upon a minus x by taking a square root. Then a minus x is equal to 2x, or from here x is equal to a by 3, which is our final answer. Okay. Okay, let us do one more question to understand this principle of superposition. Question is, four charges small q capital Q minus small q minus capital Q are placed at four corners of a square ABCD of side A. Find the net electric field at the center of the square. Okay, let us do this question. In the question it is given that one square is there, and on the square the charges are placed like that. Now at the center we want to find what is the value of electric field. Okay, now let us draw the diagram for the center. We have drawn the diagonals at the center. Let this point be O. Now due to the charge placed at A, since it is a positive charge, the electric field will be away from the charge. The direction of electric field due to small q at A will be towards this direction, and let this field be EA. Since charge at capital B is capital Q and it is positive charge, then direction of electric field due to the charge at B will be away from it, and it is given by EB vector. Now the charge at C is negative direction, negative. The charge at B at C is negative. The charge at C is negative. Therefore the direction of electric field will be towards this charge, and hence it is given by, in this direction it is EC vector. And the charge at D, it is also negative. So electric field will be towards this direction. Now we have four electric fields, EA, EB, EC, ED. Okay, EC and EA are in same direction. EB and ED are in same direction. So what we'll add EC and EA because they are in same direction. We'll add EB and ED because they are in same direction. Then we'll find the resultant of all four vectors. Okay, so let us do that. Now let's just imagine that. Just suppose that the resultant of EC and EA is E1 vector. Okay, and resultant of ED and EB is E2 vector. Now if we apply the parallelogram law, then the resultant of these two vectors will be given by the diagonal, let it be E net. Now we have to find the value of E net. Let us write the value of EA, EB, EC, ED. The value of EA is KQ upon A upon under root 2 whole square. It will be equal to what? 2 KQ upon A square. What is A upon under root 2? This is the half of the diagonal. The diagonal is given by A root 2. Half of that, it is A upon root 2. The separation, the distance of the center from any of the vertex is A upon root 2. If we solve it, it will become 2 KQ upon A square. Similarly, for EB, we have KQ upon A upon under root 2 whole square is equal to 2 KQ upon A square. EC will have KQ upon A upon under root 2 whole square. Similarly, for ED, we have the expression. Now, E1 is the resultant of EC and EA. For E1, we have EA plus EC. EA, it is 2 KQ upon A square. EC is 2 KQ upon A square. If we add them, what we are going to have? 4 KQ upon A square. Now, for E2, we have EB and ED. EB plus ED, because E2 is the resultant of EB and ED. If we'll put the value, we'll solve that. We'll have 4 KQ upon A square. Now, the diagonals of the square at the center of the square are perpendicular to each other, means E1 and E2 are perpendicular to each other. Therefore, the net field is given by under root E1 square plus E2 square. We'll put the value. If we solve it by simple math calculation, you can solve it, and the answer will be 4k upon A square under root Q square plus capital Q square. So this is what the net electric field will be. Okay. So from here, what I'm trying to tell you is, just see, the problems are very much similar to Coulomb's law problems. Earlier, the force was given by KQ1 Q2 by R square. Here the electric field is given by KQ by R square. Okay, so there is no difference if in the methodology of solving problems based on Coulomb's law and problem based on electric field. Okay, if you understand the problem based on Coulomb's law, then problem based on electric field can be easily done. Is it clear? So rest of the question solved by yourself from your book. If any of the doubt comes, let me know, we'll discuss that. Now we'll discuss continuous charge distribution. What is continuous charge distribution? The two questions we have done, in those two questions charges were countable. We can calculate the charge, but because they were point charge. But suppose if certain amount of charge is distributed is given to a conductor, then what happens? The charge is distributed along its on its surface. Now in that case, we'll discuss charge distribution or charge density. There are three charge density we need to understand. One is linear charge density. It is defined as the charge distributed per unit length on a linear conductor is called linear charge density. It is denoted by lambda. It is equal to Q by L. The other charge density is surface charge density, and it is charge distributed per unit area is called surface charge density. It is basically for the conductors, because on conductors the charges are on the surface only. Okay. The next is, and its formula will be sigma is equal to Q by A. Sigma is denoted as the charge density. Okay, surface charge density. The next one is volume charge density. It is denoted by rho, and it is defined as charge distributed per unit volume, and it is given by rho is equal to Q upon V. The unit of linear charge density will be Coulomb per meter. The unit for surface charge density will be Coulomb per meter square, and the unit for volume charge density will be Coulomb per meter cube. Volume charge density is considered when the charge is given to an insulator, because insulator, what happens, the charge is distributed throughout the volume. Is it clear? For conductor, we calculate surface charge density because charge given to a conductor, it is on the surface of the conductor. Okay. Now let us move ahead. We'll do one charge density, one distribution today, and next distributions will be used in Gauss law. but we'll do one today, and it is given in the NCERT also. You must understand. Electric field due to infinitely long uniformly charged wire. In the NCERT, it is given as a question without using Gauss law. So it is the solution of that without using Gauss law. Now let us draw the diagram first of all. Let this be a wire. Okay, it is in green color. Let the charge be distributed along its length. Let's its linear charge density is lambda. Now we are going to take a point O and a perpendicular distance from O. Distance is A. There is a point, and at this point only we want to calculate the electric field. Okay. Now what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a small length element. If you can see here, red color length element is there. Okay. Length element, and this length element is dl. Is it clear? Now dl is at a distance L from O. dl is at a distance L from O, and it is at the point at which we want to calculate the electric field. From there it is at a distance R. Okay. Now just dl subtend an angle d theta on the point, and it makes theta with the point. Means angular position of dl with respect to O is theta, and dl subtends an angle d theta on the point. Is it clear? Now that dl length will contain how much charge? As per dl, the charge whatever dl contains, the electric field will be along the line. Let this electric field be dE. And according to this angle, just see, I am going to calculate the components of dE along A, along this line, and perpendicular to this line we are going to have d cos theta and d sin theta. As you can see, this angle is going to be equal because they are vertically opposite. Okay. Now if we take a small element at the same length from O above this line, then what will happen? Suppose here the dl is there, then what will happen? D will be with, it will make the same angle theta, it will make the same angle theta, and dE will be in this side because of this component. D will be in this direction and d sin theta will be downward. Okay. Now just see, d sin theta and d sin theta are in opposite directions, and d cos theta of this will be added to d cos theta. So what we can say here, dE is equal to kq upon r square. So suppose the dl contains dq charge, that will be given k dq upon r square. In place of dq we can write lambda into dl, because lambda is equal to q by l. So dq will be equal to lambda into dl. So in place of dq we can write lambda into dl. Okay. Now what we can see, that d sin theta is 0 over the complete length of infinite wire. This point is somewhere, I'm telling about this point. This point is somewhere which is not exactly but in the mid of the wire, and wire is of infinite length as per our topic is. So wire is extended infinitely above this point also, and below this point also wire is extended infinite. So for every dE sin theta vertically upward, we have a vertical downward dE sin theta also, and when we add both of them, the answer will be 0. Okay, so if the wire is of infinite length and point is somewhere mid of the wire, then what will happen? D sin theta will be 0 if we add it. Okay, so net electric field will be given by integration of d cos theta. Now one confusion is there in the mind of the students. They say that should be 2 d cos theta, because 1 d cos theta will be of this component also. But what we are integrating d cos theta from here to here length, means for the complete length of the wire. If you write 2 d cos theta, then you will integrate 0 to theta only. Is it clear? But I am calculating it from here till here. So every d cos theta will be included. Okay, we'll put the value of d here. So we'll get k lambda dl upon r square. Now Let this be equation number 1. Okay. Now from figure you can see what we can have. Just see cos theta is equal to A upon R. Just see this right angle triangle. In this right angle triangle, for this theta, this A is base and this R is hypotenuse. So what we can write, cos theta is equal to A upon R. From here the value of R is A upon cos theta. Okay. And we can write it A sec theta. Let this be equation number 2. Alright. Now we want to calculate the value of DL also. So for DL, also from figure we can have tan theta is equal to L by A. In the same triangle, L is perpendicular, A is base. From here L is equal to A tan theta. If we differentiate this equation, we have DL is equal to A, differentiation of tan theta is sec square theta, and differentiation of theta is d theta. That will become A sec square theta d theta. Let this be equation number 3. Now what we are going to do, we are going to put the value of R and DL in the equation number 1, and we have integration of k lambda A sec square theta d theta cos theta upon A sec theta whole square. Okay, what I have done, I have just put the values of DL and R in the equation number 1. Now just see some things are cancelled out, like sec square theta will be cancelled out, 1A will be cancelled out, and we are going to have k is equal to integration of k lambda cos theta d theta upon A. Now the whole integration is converted into theta only. Okay. Now we have to put the limits of theta, and for limits, for a moment I am considering this wire as a finite wire, and then after for infinite I'll put the conditions. Suppose the bottom end of the wire makes an angle minus theta 1. Okay, the bottom of the wire makes an angle minus theta 1, and the top point of the wire makes an angle theta 2. One question can be there, that why this angle is taken minus and why this angle is taken plus. As because we are moving downward from here, just see sense of rotation. The sense of rotation from here, it is something anti-clockwise, and sense of rotation for it is clockwise. One is anti-clockwise, one is clockwise, so one has to be negative. That's why the lower one has taken as negative and upper one has taken positive. Okay, so now we'll put the limits and we'll integrate it. We are going to have integration minus theta 1 to theta 2 k lambda cos theta d theta upon A. K lambda upon A is constant, it is out of the integration. The integration of cos theta is sin theta, and if we put the limits, it will become sin theta 2 minus sin theta 1. So what we are, that minus or minus will become plus, and we are going to have k lambda upon A sin theta 2 plus sin theta 1. Is it clear? So this is our general formula for a finite wire. Is it clear? But in this finite wire, one thing is taken into consideration, that the extension of wire above O and below O should be same. Okay, because if this wire is not, suppose this wire is of these wires are not equal length above O and below O, then that d sin theta will not be 0. Then we have to integrate d sin theta also. Is it clear? But in our syllabus in CBSE, we have infinite wire only. So for infinite wire, this formula fits. Okay, now for infinite, that angles theta 1 and theta 2 will become pi by 2. Suppose the extension of wire is infinite below O and above O it is infinite, the angle will increase and its limiting value will be pi by 2. So if we'll put pi by 2, the electric field comes out to be 2 k lambda by A. This will be our formula for this particular topic. So this is all for the day. In the next video lecture, if you told me, then we'll do some topics which are not exactly in the syllabus, but for competitions they are important. Just let me know if whether you are interested in studying those topics, or we should stick to the CBSE only. We should stick to the NCERT only. Okay, so this is all for the day. Thank you.